Last week on the Epic Family Road Trip, we had some epic adventures in the beautiful state of Oregon and prepared our rig for the long journey north to Alaska.
So today's pack-up day. We're leaving Salem, Oregon, packing everything up again and getting ready to go.
Our last stop in Oregon as we headed north was Multnomah Falls. We hiked up 600 feet to the top of the waterfall and enjoyed the epic view. We then continued north, driving through Washington on the way to the border, where we would cross to British Columbia, Canada. As we drove through the beautiful province of British Columbia, we took a break from driving and did a little hike to the Bridevale Falls. Bridevale Falls is a famous waterfall in Bridevale Falls Provincial Park near Chilliwack, BC. After a nice hike, we began the drive almost 2,000 kilometers north to the Yukon Territory.
Cassiar highway way up in northern BC, almost to the top of BC. In fact, about 3 hours from now we'll be in the Yukon. And we started down in the States, down in Seattle or so, and drove up, crossed into Canada in Abbotsford, and made it as far as Kamloops. We spent the night there. And then we carried on from there up to Williams Lake. We spent the night in Williams Lake, BC. And then we did another day's drive and made it up to a place called Kluane, a beautiful campground on the river, and we spent the night there. And then we did another day's drive and ended up in a place with no name, but it was an RV place called Shadow Mountain. It's a really nice place to stay. It's grizzly bear country and just really remote. Now on those 4 or 5 days of traveling, you pass 1 or 2 gas stations. Actually, on the last day, there's just 2 gas stations or diesel stations, so you got to make sure you fuel up when you see diesel, whether you need it or not. And we also bought 2 big jerry cans, which are in the Jeep, and we filled them with diesel. So now we left around 7 o'clock this morning from the Shadow Mountain RV resort, and we're headed up to Yukon. And the road now is just there's no markings on the road. It's basically it's not paved and it's not a dirt road. It's just a surfaced dirt road. Really rough. You got to take your time. There's some switchbacks down the mountains. Very beautiful country. In fact, we just saw a sign that said "Caution Caribou Crossing," so we're really getting up in the north now. Once we get to Yukon, that's the end of the Cassiar highway, and we join onto the Alaska highway. And so we don't know exactly how far it is because there's no internet, no cell phone, nothing. But you can't get lost because there's only one road up here. But we'll try to get to Yellowknife, Yukon, and spend the night, and then go on to Alaska.
Before crossing into the Yukon, our last stop in northwestern British Columbia was Jade City. Jade City is famous for its jadestone mining and products and has a population of about 30 people. After Jade City, we crossed into the wild, mountainous, and sparsely populated Yukon territory.
No.
We then drove about 7 hours to the capital city of Whitehorse.
We're in Yellowknife, Yukon, and we have a Cuisinart barbecue like this that we've been using the whole trip, but it's kind of given up the ghost. It's finished. It's been used almost every day for the last 6 months, so it's kind of tired. So it's time to buy a new barbecue, and there's a whole bunch of options. We're thinking of going with one on a stand, but we like the convenience of being able to just slide it into one of the side cabinets on the RV. You've got these marine units here, which are very small and convenient, and they look very good quality, decent price. But what we're thinking of going with is this unit by Napoleon. It's on sale, and it really looks like it can handle our needs, and it fits into, it's pretty compact, so it should fit into the RV properly. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to go with the Napoleon. We'll let you know how it works.
A cool stop to make along the Alaska Highway is at the Yukon Beringia Interpretive Center. Here we learned all about mammoths and other animals that migrated through and lived in the area a long, long time ago.
Wow, it's nearly the size of a grizzly bear.
Continuing along the Alaska Highway, we headed to Kluane National Park and Reserve. On the way to the visitor center, we took a break and cooled our feet in the glacial waters of Kluane Lake. Kluane Lake is the largest lake in the Yukon and is approximately 81 kilometers or 50 miles long. Kluane National Park is home to vast ice fields, forests, and mountains, including the tallest mountain in Canada, Mount Logan. At the visitor center, we learned more about the park and searched for wildlife that are often seen grazing on the beautiful mountainsides above. That night, we camped surrounded by the remote and wild beauty of the Yukon forests and mountains. It was a strange experience to be sleeping under the midnight sun.
Once you get north of Kluane National Park on the Alaskan Highway, you're on permafrost, so the road is really beat up and rough here. A lot of times we're just going 40 kilometers an hour. There's lots of potholes and then these big frost cracks, I guess. You can see the trees are stunted in their growth because of the permafrost. About 1.5 or 2 feet down, it's solid ice. It's a neat area for sure, but it's just, you're going to drive a lot slower on the Alaskan Highway here.
After a breathtaking drive through part of the Yukon Territory, we finally crossed into Alaska. Denali National Park encompasses 6 million acres of Alaska's interior wilderness, and at its center is the magnificent Mount Denali.
We made it to Denali National Park today, and it's a really popular place, obviously, especially this time of year, and campsites are booked way out into August actually. So we are at a park, an RV park about 20 miles south of the park, but you actually get some really good scenery here and some really good views of the mountain.
We had a lot of fun exploring the park and seeing the many spectacular views and species of wildlife.
That's a big grizzly.
After an amazing time in Denali National Park, we drove 4 hours south to the city of Anchorage. In Anchorage, the boys got some fresh haircuts after being in the wilderness for a few weeks. Continuing south, we drove to the Exit Glacier in Kenai Fjords National Park. This was a fun hike that provided some breathtaking views along the way. Next stop was Seward, Alaska. Seward is a beautiful port city on an inlet on the Kenai Peninsula. In Seward, the boys got to go fishing across the bay in the cold blue waters of the northern Pacific Ocean. Outside of Seward in the Kenai Mountains is Mount Marathon. We decided to hike up part of Mount Marathon before driving back north to stop and trek on the Matanuska Glacier. Right as we began the hike, a hiker coming down the trail said to keep our eyes out for a black bear he spotted on the trail about a half hour into the trek, which was a little unnerving. But our fears left us as we climbed higher, exposing the beauty of nature and the views of the mountains and Kenai Peninsula in the distance.
Sure.
Days up and down, they come and go, and there's not much I can do. And I feel like a stranger to this world. It's never been so true.
Stay tuned for episode 9 of season 1 of the Epic Family Road Trip, where we head to Matanuska Glacier before beginning the long drive back south to Alberta, Canada.
Hey, hey. So I keep turning around, longing